At 52 years old, I thought I understood my life completely. I had built a successful career, maintained a respectable marriage, and lived by everyone's expectations. But one unexpected encounter at a college reunion shattered that carefully constructed world. Her name was Catherine, and she had been my deepest secret for 30 years. When she walked back into my life, everything I thought I knew about myself and about love came crashing down, leading me on a journey I never imagined, discovering myself, losing everything, and finding my way back to the one person who had always understood my true self. The reunion invitation sat on my kitchen counter for 3 weeks before I decided to go. My wife, Margaret, thought it was wonderful a chance to reconnect with old friends, she said. She didn't know that my hands trembled as I chose what to wear, as if my body already sensed what my mind refused to acknowledge. It was 1992 when I first met Catherine in our college dorm. She lived 2 doors down from me, and from the moment she laughed at one of my terrible jokes during orientation week, I was undone. We spent every moment together that entire year studying in the library until closing time, walking through the city at midnight, sharing secrets under blankets like we were children playing fort. When she kissed me for the first time, it felt like coming home to a place I'd never actually lived, but had always belonged to. But 1992 was a different world. Or perhaps I was just a different person, someone too afraid, too uncertain, too concerned with what my conservative family expected. When Catherine wanted to be honest about what we were, I couldn't do it. I chose the safe path instead. I met Margaret through mutual friends, and within 2 years, we were married. Catherine disappeared from my life, and I learned to live with the absence like you learn to live with chronic pain. You simply adjust your posture and continue moving forward. 30 years. 30 years of a good life, a respectable life, but a life that always felt slightly misaligned, as if I were wearing shoes that didn't quite fit. Margaret was kind. We had shared experiences, inside jokes, a comfortable rhythm. But there was always something missing, that electric current, that sense of being truly seen and fully accepted. When I walked into the hotel ballroom that evening, I wasn't looking for her. I wasn't looking for anything, really. I was simply going through the motions, smiling at people I barely remembered, making small talk about careers and children and mortgages. And then I turned, and there she was. Catherine hadn't changed, not in any way that mattered. She was older, yes, her hair had silver threading through it, and there were lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. But her smile was exactly the same. Her eyes, that brilliant green I had tried so hard to forget, were exactly the same. Margaret, she said, using my maiden name, the name I hadn't heard spoken aloud in decades. Is that really you? I wanted to run. I wanted to stay. I wanted to rewrite 30 years of choices in a single moment. Instead, I stood frozen, watching her face transition from joy at seeing an old friend to something deeper, something knowing. She had always been able to read me, even when I couldn't read myself. Catherine, I whispered. Hello. That word, hello, contained a lifetime of goodbye. We talked for 3 hours. We moved away from the crowd, found a quiet corner of the hotel bar, and didn't stop talking. Catherine told me about her life, the architecture firm she'd built from nothing, the woman she'd been with for 23 years, the journey she'd taken to accept herself fully. She spoke with a kind of peace I had never possessed, a wholeness I didn't know existed. When it was my turn, I lied at first. I told her about Margaret, about the comfortable life we'd built. But Catherine's gentle questioning eventually unraveled me. She asked if I was happy. Just that. 3 words that opened a floodgate. No, I finally admitted. I don't think I've been happy in 30 years. She reached across the table and took my hand. It was just a touch, nothing scandalous, nothing that anyone watching would have noticed. But it felt like fire over the next week, I found myself creating excuses to leave the house. I told Margaret I was seeing a therapist, which became true, though not in the way she imagined. I met Catherine at coffee shops, at parks, at quiet museums where we could walk and talk and pretend we were doing something that felt like both resurrection and betrayal. "Come away with me," Catherine said one afternoon as we sat by the river. "Leave Margaret. Leave all of it. You deserve to live your real life." I almost did. God, I almost did. But fear, that old companion, whispered all its familiar arguments. What about Margaret's feelings? What about my reputation? What about my family? What about all the years I'd invested in this life? "I need time," I told her. "I need to figure this out." Catherine nodded, but I saw the disappointment in her eyes. She had already done the hard work of becoming herself. She couldn't understand why I was still hiding Dot when Margaret found the hotel receipt from my meeting with Catherine. When she read the emails on my laptop, something inside her broke. She didn't scream or cry. She simply looked at me with an expression of such profound sadness and said, "I always knew there was someone else. I just thought it was a man." That night I chose. I chose safety over love. I chose the known over the unknown. I told Catherine I couldn't see her anymore, that I had made my commitment to Margaret, and that was final. She didn't fight. She simply held me while I cried in her car, and then she let me go. The next 5 years were punctuated by small moments of longing. A song on the radio would remind me of her. I'd see a woman with silver-threaded hair, and my heart would skip. I existed in a kind of emotional hibernation, going through the motions of my marriage. My work, my life, but never fully present. Margaret and I didn't divorce. We negotiated a new arrangement. We would stay together for practical reasons, but we would lead increasingly separate lives. She had her activities, her friends, her quiet evenings. I had my work, my solitude, and the constant ache of absence. I never stopped thinking about Catherine. I found her on social media carefully, secretly, and I watched her life unfold from a distance like a ghost haunting my own existence. She traveled. She worked on beautiful buildings. She seemed happy, fully inhabited in a way I had never been. The shame was immobilizing. I had been given a gift, a second chance at happiness, at authenticity, at love, and I had thrown it away. I told myself that I had done the right thing, that honor and commitment mattered more than personal fulfillment. But those words rang hollow. Even in my own mind, my therapist, the real one, eventually asked me a question that changed everything. If you stay in this marriage out of obligation, what are you teaching Margaret about what love should be? What are you teaching yourself? I didn't have an answer, but the question wouldn't leave me alone. On a Tuesday in May, I finally admitted the truth to myself. I had wasted enough time. I was 57 years old. I didn't know how many years I had left, but I knew I couldn't spend them pretending to be someone I wasn't. Margaret deserved someone who chose her fully, and I deserved the chance to live authentically, even if I had to do it alone. I filed for divorce with a clarity I hadn't felt in decades. Margaret was relieved, though she didn't say so. I think she had been waiting for me to make this choice for years. Finding Catherine was easier than I expected. I reached out through a mutual friend who told her I wanted to talk. She agreed to meet me at the same river where she had asked me to run away with her all those years ago. I was terrified. What if she had moved on completely? What if 5 years was too long and the connection had died? What if I had destroyed something that could never be rebuilt? She was waiting on the bench when I arrived, watching the water flow past like it had when we were both younger and braver. "Hello, Margaret," she said, and the use of my real name, the name only she had ever called me with complete understanding, nearly broke me. "I'm sorry," I said immediately. "I'm so sorry. For everything. For choosing wrong, for being a coward, for she stood up and kissed me. It wasn't the tentative kiss of new love or the desperate kiss of people who had been torn apart. It was the kiss of people who had been separated by time and fear and circumstance, but who had never actually stopped being connected at the deepest level. "I never stopped loving you," she whispered. "Not for a single day." "I know," I said. "I never stopped either. I was just too afraid to admit it." The next year was tender and careful and utterly joyful. We took it slowly, learning each other again, building a relationship that was different from the passionate intensity of our youth, but deeper, more grounded in reality and choice and genuine acceptance. I came out to my family, which was harder than I expected, but also more liberating than I could have imagined. Some people didn't understand. Some people judged. But the ones who mattered stayed, and they learned that their mother, their daughter, their sister was finally becoming whole. Catherine and I bought a small house by the water. We didn't do anything dramatic or scandalous. We simply lived together, built a life together, and loved each other in the quiet, steady way of people who knew exactly how precious their second chance was. On a Tuesday evening, 5 years after our reunion, Catherine took my hand and asked me to marry her. She had a ring, nothing flashy, just a simple band of white gold that caught the light like water. "Yes," I said immediately. "Yes to you. Yes to everything. Yes to finally choosing myself and us." We got married the following spring in our garden, surrounded by close friends and the family members who had chosen love over convention. When we kissed at the altar, I felt something shift inside my chest, not a breaking apart, but a final, complete coming together of all the fragmented pieces of myself I had kept scattered for so long. I am 62 years old now, and I've never been happier or more fully myself. Catherine and I have built a life that is both ordinary and extraordinary. We have our routines, our inside jokes, our quiet mornings and peaceful evenings. We have the kind of love that doesn't require constant fireworks. It simply requires presence, honesty, and the daily choice to show up for each other. If you are reading this and you recognize yourself in my story, if you are someone who has been living half a life, hiding your true self, afraid to reach for authentic happiness, I want you to know something. It's never too late. The years you spent living someone else's version of your life are not wasted. They are part of your story, but they don't have to be the end of your story. Your real life is waiting. The question is, are you brave enough to claim it? If this story resonated with you, if you see yourself in these pages, I invite you to share it. Tell someone you trust. Take one small step toward authenticity. And if you're ready, take the bigger leap. Because love, real, honest, transformative love is worth every risk. The kiss we almost lost became the kiss that saved us both. Share your story. You are not alone. Your truth matters.